So, first of all, thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Andrew Eisinga. I've gone to school here my whole life since kindergarten, and for my senior project, I chose to talk about buying local and the effects that it has. And the reason I picked this is because I have lived my whole life on a farm, and after high school, I plan to go to college for agriculture, and then hopefully spend the rest of my life farming. So, first off, what does buying local mean? Well, buying local is buying from small stores or shops in your area, or as some people say, shopping a store with a door. Buying local food supplies keeps money in your area because often local businesses have to buy from local service providers, farms, companies, and other businesses. So buying local today, in today's world, people are really looking to buy things that are local, that they know where they come from. They want to know what it took to grow their food, what was used on their food, chemicals, things like that. COVID-19 has had a big impact on this because, again, people are really starting to look at what's in their food and where it comes from. People want food that's healthy and naturally grown. They don't want all of the gases and chemicals and stuff like that. These things have really helped farmers be able to sell more local, which is good for both the farmer and the consumer. I have a few videos throughout my presentation, interview videos. I interviewed Jody DeHate, who is a MEAP technician at the Misaki Conservation District, and MEAP stands for Michigan Agricultural Environmental Assurance Program. And for this question, I just asked her why buying local was important to her.
I like supporting my friends and the farmers in the area because I know their growing practices for the most part. It's the same thing that I grew up on, say if it's dairy beef or beef from one of the farms in the area. I know how it's raised, I like how it's raised, but I like supporting my friends. I think and the people in the area rather than someone I really don't know. I'm sure their practices are usually fine, but when so-and-so down the road has a quarter beef for sale, it's like, yeah, I need some, so I'd rather give my money to somebody I know rather than someone that I don't.
So, as she said, it's really important to help out your friends and support them, and it might actually be even more important now because of COVID. So, the effects that COVID has on buying local, 5,000 Americans were surveyed. Around 35% of the respondents to that survey said that they had begun buying more local produce since COVID-19 began, with 87% of them indicating that they would continue to buy food locally even once the pandemic ends. Then Michigan State University said, we also predicted with less travel and cancellation of summer events, consumers would turn to other outdoor activities, and that would include a visit to direct market operations and farmers markets, since they would be perceived as safe options for an outdoor activity due to greater openness of the facility. So even though COVID took a lot of things from us and kind of really made life hard, it did help people to be able to sell more local. And for this question, I asked Jody what the impacts were from COVID that she saw in our area.
With the farmers market, we have 5 acres of vegetables. They couldn't get in stores to get garden seeds, so people wanted starts from us or even extra seeds if we had them. I know that was pretty true across the board with a lot of people, and as far as people growing things that they wanted others to give them the tomato or pepper starts, because they weren't allowed last year to go into the stores and get that, which was kind of crazy. I know that people were a little scared with not having eggs or milk in the stores. So I think it was nice that Brent's Creamery they weren't bottling milk yet, but they were there. So people were kind of at ease with that. And everybody who had chickens were selling eggs like crazy. So I think that kind of pushed the idea that local need to have that around. I don't think that everybody was super worried, but it was kind of weird to see that there was no milk in the stores or no eggs and other things that you normally don't have a problem getting. So, yeah.
So Jody talked a little bit about how major stores didn't have produce like eggs and milk. So local people actually got to sell a lot more of their produce, and that's one way that we can actually help build a community. So local food builds community. When you buy direct from a farmer, you're engaging in a connection between consumer and grower. Knowing farmers gives you insight into the seasons, the land, and your food. And in many cases, it gives you access to a place where your children and grandchildren can go to learn about nature and agriculture. People like to find food that's grown in the area because they know where it comes from, and they like to help out the community around them. Buying local also keeps the money in the community because the consumer pays the farmer for the food, and the farmer uses that money to then grow more food for the consumer. So it's kind of like a circle of money throughout the community. Food that's produced locally usually tastes and looks better because it spends less time in storage, less time being handled, and less time on the road. Eating local is also a good way to take care of our bodies and stay healthy. And for this question, I asked her, why does local food taste better? Or why do some people think that local food tastes better?
It's just the timeliness of harvest. If you look at where most of our produce is shipped in from, which is mainly California, Arizona, just because of the arid weather they have there, it just grows really well there. But in order to get a tomato from there to here and not have it rot in between times, they have to pick it pretty green. So it just doesn't have that time in the sun to ripen up. It just doesn't. And the varieties they use may not be the tastiest. They're there to be better shippers rather than the best taste. So I know that sweet corn from homegrown usually is way better, or locally is way better tasting, same with tomatoes, just because it's harvested at peak rather than early and try to give it whatever it needs to do with, like, use gas or whatever, different types of gases to make it ripen while in shipping. So store-bought tomatoes just taste like cardboard. So I'd rather, same with, like strawberries from California. They taste okay, but you get it 2 miles down the road, it just tastes a lot better, just because of the time of harvest and sometimes variety selection too.
So the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you're bought with a price, so glorify God in your body. And I like this verse because that last sentence that says, so glorify God in your body. One way that we can do that is by staying healthy and in shape, and we can do that by eating local, healthy food. So the effects that buying local has on farmers, the first is local food supports local families. The wholesale prices that farmers get for their products are pretty low and usually near the cost of production. So local farmers who sell direct to consumers can cut out the middleman and get full retail price for their food, which helps farm families stay on their land. The second is cutting out the middleman can sometimes make it easier for farmers to sell their products because they can go straight from the field to sale. This also keeps the produce fresh because it's handled less and it spends less time in storage. If people buy from local farms, the farmer will want to keep his farm and his produce clean as possible because he knows exactly where that food's going. And he wants to make sure that he keeps all of his friends and family in the community safe, so he's going to do everything he can to keep his stuff clean and healthy. And then for this question, I just asked what she saw as the biggest threat to small farms and small businesses in our area.
Threat to small farms or farms in general and businesses, regulation. I think there are a lot of lawmakers who don't have a clue about how their regulations affect small businesses or farms or anything like that. It really hits them a lot harder because they don't have the revenue of a big company like Walmart behind them or really anything. It's just them. So like the pandemic really hit small businesses hard. Farms were a little bit more resilient that way, but it still was tough. So I just think that regulations, and right now labor too, if you are a fruit farmer or a vegetable farmer that relies on labor to pick things or process things, it is super tough out there. And you're competing with people who they're offering signing bonuses and health insurance, and you can't do that. You're just too small to do that. I think those two issues are probably gonna keep being issues for a long time. You'll see, I've seen more small dairy farmers or small dairy farms that are, like 300 cows and under, are putting in the robots because they're sick of trying to deal with labor. So I think, regulations and labor are the two things that probably kill farms and businesses.
So Jody talked a little bit how the amount of regulations can really affect a small farmer business just because they don't have the size or ability to follow some of those regulations that are really made for some of these bigger companies. So buying local doesn't always mean just local food. Buying from stores in your area is another way that you can buy local. Stores in our area want to buy and sell local, so if we buy from them, we're keeping money in the community and we are strengthening friendships while we do it. Local stores have to buy from other local businesses and farms to keep their businesses running. So overall, if we buy local, that money we spend will actually stay local. And Bible verse that I kind of picked to go with this that I like is iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another, and that's Proverbs 27:17. And I like this just because it's kind of like one business helping out another business to help build each other up and make each other stronger. So how buying local affects the community? When you buy direct from a farmer, you're engaging in a connection between consumer and grower. Knowing farmers gives you insight into the seasons, the land, and your food. And in many cases, it gives you access to a place where your children and grandchildren can go to learn about nature and agriculture. Local food also preserves open space. When farmers get paid more for their products by marketing locally, they're less likely to sell farmland for development. And when you buy locally grown food, you're doing something proactive to preserve a working landscape. The landscape is an essential ingredient to other economic activity in the state, such as tourism and recreation. And for this question, I just asked how she has seen buying local build and strengthen the community.
Buying local does help the community because it gives us some resilience, especially like during the pandemic. Now that Brinks offers milk that they bottle. But if they can get the plastic bottles, they're fine. But if they can't, then we're all up a creek. But I think it just gives some resilience to the community that they can supply their own food. Just talking with friends on Facebook, we know we can get meat, we can get honey, we can get maple syrup, we can get this, that, and the other thing because we grow it here. So it just gives people more confidence in weird times like this past 2 years. But it just makes the community more resilient when there are issues in the world. Makes people feel safe.
So in this video, she talked a little bit about how being able to buy and sell local can help us through tough times and how it gives us some resilience. And this ties in a little bit to how buying local can actually strengthen the local economy. So the first way that it can help strengthen the local economy is local food actually keeps taxes down. According to several studies by the American Farmland Trust, farms contribute more in taxes than they actually require in services, whereas most development contributes less in taxes than the cost in required services. Local food also benefits the environment and wildlife. Well-managed farms provide ecosystem services. They conserve fertile soil and protect water sources. The farm environment is a patchwork of fields, woods, ponds, and meadows and buildings that provide habitat for wildlife in our communities. Local food's also an investment in the future. By supporting local farmers today, you're helping to ensure that there will be farms in your community tomorrow. And this is a matter of importance for food security, especially in light of an uncertain energy future and our current reliance on fossil fuels to package, produce, and distribute, store foods. And they also create jobs. Buying local is also better for the environment. Each year, the United States transports and ships $2.2 trillion worth of products, which equates to 1.1 billion gallons of fuel and 1 billion metric tons of CO2. So how Jody talked a little bit in one of the earlier videos about how some of this food's coming from way across the country, so just the time, energy, and money that it takes to send that is a lot. And the Bible verse that goes with this is Numbers 35:33, and it says, you shall not pollute the land in which you live. And I like this verse just because it's straight to the point. So, are we actually better off buying local? And the answer is yes, because of these three things. It's better for both the consumer and the producer, it's better for the community, and it's better for the environment. How the school has kind of put me on my path and helped me pick this topic. The first is keeping ourselves healthy. We've learned this all the way throughout elementary, middle school, high school, that we need to do what we can to stay in shape, eat right, and keep ourselves healthy. The second is being stewards of the land. We've learned that in Bible that we need to do what we can to take care of God's creatures and His land. And then the last thing is helping others. We do a lot of service projects here, so this is just me trying to do my part to help others the way that I can. And that's it.